And welcome back to Hot and Cold Podcast today. Connor, guess what today is?
The most dreadful month of the year?
For
Sorry,
you.
that's just for Indiana
Yeah,
fans.
yeah. for you. It is March 1st. We're finally in March. Hot and Cold is about to kick it up. Hot and Cold is about to be the go-to podcast to listen to for all your college basketball news, everything you need for your brackets to fill them out. We got you. Today, we're going to do a lot of stuff revolving around tournaments. And it's going to be a fun episode. We had an eventful weekend that, look, I was on vacation, hand up on vacation. Maybe I'm trying to think. Yes, definitely the worst weekend to go on vacation. I can't think of a worse time to go and not watch college basketball. I watched some games. Oh, man, I watched some games. But on that Saturday, I was a little busy and I only was able to catch the game that really hurt my soul. It really hurt watching, whatever. But before we get into all of that, Connor, how are we doing today?
Um, you know, a little tired. Shout out to Hoosier Morning After. Had an early morning yesterday, thanks to Chad at General Chadwick on Twitter for letting me join him. It was a lot of fun, but it was, as a college student, it's hard to get up at 6:30 in the morning, and I will say it's kind of thrown me off a little bit on my sleep schedule.
I
But
can't believe
we're
you got
powered
up.
through.
I can't
Powered
when
through.
you sent me that text that you were going on that show, I could not believe that you got up for that. I was really hoping you did. I was on a plane like when you were recording. And I was like, I really like I can't send him a text to make sure he's up, whatever, but I was worried about you. But tell us, so you can tell me a little bit about that experience before we get into the show. That was a cool thing.
Yeah, I guess he kind of wanted to do his own thing. It's part of the assembly call like network thing that they're doing, and he basically wanted to kind of do his own podcast and not kind of overstep or contradict somebody else's that's doing something at the same time. And the show's live, obviously, but nobody's really doing anything at 7:30 in the morning, so that's kind of the time that he picked. uh and it works out for him and his schedule. So, it was fun. I think he said he would potentially have us on again, talk some more tournament stuff. You know, if Indiana gets in, obviously.
Sure.
But it was a lot of fun, and it was cool. I did need to step up my decoration. Obviously, I don't have a lot of decorations on
Same
my
here.
wall.
Same here.
Like
Yeah.
he had all these like nice Indiana things, and I've got nothing. I was like, God, I gotta step it up, at least get like the calendar or something on my door.
I've been thinking about making like a cool backdrop, like maybe setting my computer up with a wall right behind me, putting a bunch of Kentucky stuff, a bunch of NCAA tournament stuff. Um, Never got around to it, but I am really wanting to. Now we're in the YouTube
Yeah.
game as well. So, um, but yeah, eventful weekend, unbelievable stuff. We'll get to the bubble stuff in a minute. But before we get into it, I do want to talk about how that I think this is a record, the first time it's ever happened, which is crazy. But 7 teams in the top 10 went down. Gonzaga lost at St. Mary's. Arizona lost at Colorado. Auburn lost at Tennessee. Uh, for Purdue lost at Michigan State. Kansas lost at Baylor. Kentucky lost at Arkansas, and Texas Tech lost at TCU. So all of them on the road. It kind of showcased, you know, this is going to sound so lame that I'm saying this, and I'm still saying this in the year 2022, March 1st, 2022. I can't believe I'm still saying this, but this shows what we missed in that COVID year last year. No crowds. There's no home court advantage like we have. Like I watched that Kentucky Arkansas game, obviously from start to finish. That crowd was electric. Like obviously it hurt Kentucky, but at the end of the day, I was very jealous of what they had going on and everything. So yeah, screw you, COVID. We're through it. These home games are absolutely awesome to watch. And you saw it actually manifest with this 1 through 6 and number 9 loss. So that was awesome to see. The AP Top 25 obviously did a little bit of a shakeup, which when you look at it now, it's very funny. And we're to the point where the AP Top 25 doesn't matter even a little bit. So seeing Duke rise all the way up to 4 just because they didn't lose in their cupcake conference is very funny to see. I think everybody knows Duke isn't the number 4 team in the country, but so be it. But yeah, I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think this was a bad day. I think everybody who lost is thankful that everybody else lost because it didn't really hurt them in the seeding at all. I think the only team that fell at seed line was Auburn, and they got replaced by Baylor in Joe Lenardi's bracket, apologies. So kind of the one game, there's so many games, but kind of the one game I definitely want to review is Kentucky at Arkansas, because look, Baylor or Kansas at Baylor was definitely it was a battle of 2 top 10 teams, whatever, but Baylor's missing guys. I think maybe biasly, I think Kentucky at Arkansas was definitely the most entertaining game by far on the docket. There was a stretch of that game where I felt like I was watching an NCAA tournament game. Look, Arkansas is back. They're a lot better than they were at the beginning of the year. This is a team I picked to make the Final Four preseason. That is the team that I watched against Kentucky. JD Note is unreal. Jalen Williams, look, I said before the year he's going to be the guy that makes the step, and he is making the step as we speak. It sucks. I'm not the guy that blames refs, and I'm not saying it unfairly hurt Kentucky, but at the end of the game, it sucks that it came down to a ref show at the end. With obviously that Keon Brooks push off is kind of what sealed the deal for Arkansas. And that's whatever. It probably was a foul. It's just one of those things that you probably don't call at the end of the game, especially a good game like that. But look, for Kentucky, I'm not walking out of there with my head down. Obviously, it hurts, which we could have won. We only lost by 2. But you're getting nothing from Ty. You're getting nothing from Grady. You're getting nothing from Mintz. You're getting nothing from Toppin. And that's 4 guys in your 7-man rotation that you like to run. You're still in the game. You're still in the game at the end of that. Oscar obviously has one of his best games of the year, and that's crazy to say because he's had so many great games. He single-handedly kept him in that game, 30-18. He was doing fantastic stuff below the rim, kind of getting those hook shots up, whatever. He did struggle at the end of the game at keeping up with Jalen Williams because that man, he's athletic. He has a quick first step. He can blow by guys off the dribble. You don't see a lot of that from a big man. He's a great player. He might be an NBA pick one day. And yeah, it was a great game all around. Shout out Arkansas. I like that team a lot. And the crazy stat I saw from the weekend, and I'm going to let you go and talk about home games. The SEC, the top 4 teams, have a combined 1 loss at home. Combined 1 loss. That's Auburn, undefeated. Tennessee, undefeated. Kentucky, undefeated. Arkansas, 1 loss against Alabama. And look, Alabama can win whenever. And look, I thought that was really interesting to watch. What do you think about that?
Yeah, clearly home court has kind of really dominated college basketball this year in almost every conference. I mean, Texas Tech last night, they're 18-0 at home this year, which is just completely unexpected for a number of other reasons. But that one in particular is just, it's crazy to see because you don't really think of Texas Tech as that juggernaut at home versus like a Kansas or a Kentucky or anybody else. But I mean, it's crazy when you really look at it. And I've talked about it from the Big Ten perspective. I mean, even the top teams in the Big Ten struggle.
Sorry, it wasn't Alabama. I think it was a non-conference game. It was Hofstra. Believe it or not, it was freaking Hofstra. Sorry, keep going.
No, you're good. I mean, you look at the top teams in the Big Ten when they play on the road. I mean, Purdue's 5-4. Ohio State's under 500.
Yeah.
Iowa's 500. Like honestly, the most impressive team is Wisconsin, believe it or not, because they're 9-2 on the road. And I did see, which I don't know, we can talk about the tournament and stuff later, but the funniest thing I saw is the number one team in the Big Ten. I think to make the Final Four is like plus 1,000, I think, maybe plus to make the national championship, it's even higher, like plus 10,000 or something. Like it's ridiculous. And I don't think I'm a believer in them either, but I think that's just kind of funny. But yeah, home court it's unbelievable. We were talking about it before we started. I mean, in the Big 12, it's the same way. Like Kansas only has one loss. Baylor has 2 losses. It's something that I did not expect. The only conference that really has an effect is the ACC because that conference sucks.
Yeah, it's a cesspool. The ACC
It's
is
not
cesspool. Good. Yeah. No, and look, I'm happy the fans are back. I hate that the SEC schedules their games like this. I think those 4 teams, look, and you can argue for the future, maybe add Florida in that. Those are going to be the 4 teams that are great for the SEC. The rest, like for the near future, Kentucky, Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas. Auburn is finally they've kind of made a name for themselves with Bruce Pearl at the helm. As long as he just got a lifetime contract. So for the near future, you'd think Auburn can be good. Arkansas, obviously Eric Musselman. You are skeptical of him, but they just went on this fantastic run. They went to the Elite Eight last year. I think they will be there. Tennessee, obviously, always in the mix. In Florida, the fact that they don't always have to play those 3 teams, the fact that they don't always have to play 2 games against each other is baffling. It's absolutely baffling. I think Kentucky and Auburn should play every year. Kentucky and Arkansas twice every year, and it sucks that I'm speaking as a Kentucky fan. I know this is going to sound like complaining. Kentucky has played obviously all of those 3 teams on the road. They played all of those 3 teams on the road. Nobody else in that 4-team bubble has had to do that. And yeah, it kind of sucks, but it's whatever. Not going to complain about it. And but yeah, I would love to host Arkansas and Auburn just to see what they do at Rupp. Obviously, we're not going to get that. And it comes to the question: how do you value these teams? Look, 1 and 6, whatever. They'll 1 through 6, they'll lose on the road. But how do you value the teams that beat them? Because there's no home games in the tournament. Obviously, you can argue where you land, like Kentucky lands in Indianapolis or Louisville or something like that. They're going to get a lot of Kentucky fans in. Indiana wins it, lands in Indianapolis. A lot of Indiana fans are going to be there. But there's no home games. There's no true home games. At most, it's going to be 70-30 in that building. And how do you value these teams that just dominate on the road? You can, but there's no away games either. So it's hard to really value these teams and how they'll do in the tournament.
That's why March Madness is so crazy. It's total just guessing at this point, because not only is it because road games to a certain degree are, depending on where you're at, you're kind of familiar with that arena, especially if you're an upperclassman. Now you're playing in a neutral site that you're playing in a building you've never played in. Yeah. And that can have major implications on how you play. Everybody talks about the shooter's backdrop and what if it's a shooter's gym or not. Last year was really interesting the way they did the tournament. Like Indiana, they hosted, like Purdue, that was really interesting. It was some Big Ten teams were playing at like Mackey, which I thought was interesting because like that's kind of an advantage because they've actually played there before.
They didn't win there.
It didn't really matter.
They never won there. So
no, it honestly would have been like, I don't want to play here.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to tell. And the only thing you can really go off of is these neutral site games that people play early, the teams play earlier in the season. But even then, it's like that's so far
Yeah.
away,
and that's
hard to
like
judge.
that's like using that Duke Kentucky game in New York to value these teams. That's like using Kansas and Michigan State in New York. That's like using Gonzaga and Alabama in Seattle, like or in Portland, wherever it was. You're not gonna use that. Like it's so hard to value these teams from November and December. So it is going to be interesting. Obviously, we have our takes. We know a lot about these teams, and we know how far we think they're going to go. But away from the top of the land, I kind of want to go, near the middle. There's this thing called the bubble, and it's the last teams in and the first teams out of the NCAA tournament. There's a certain team that's kind of sticking out in all red letters in that last four in category. And I'm looking at Joe Lenardi's bracketology. We always use his. Indiana is in the last four in. Connor, if you follow our Twitter, you know this. If you listen to the early morning show he did, he talked about it. He's been the bubble guy. He has no choice but to be the bubble guy because you have to look at all of the teams around you to see if Indiana is going to be in. Because all in all, they control their own destiny, but you still have to go to Purdue. That win doesn't seem likely, so you have to look at all the teams around you to make that decision. So, Connor, your thoughts on the bubble? What are the teams around you doing? What has to happen for Indiana to make the tournament? What has to happen for them not to?
I mean, I'm looking at this from today, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Like it hadn't been updated yesterday when I went on the show. I was going off of Lenardi's from like February 25th, and he just updated this morning. And again, I was tweeting about it last night. Syracuse, I hate them. They played their best game against Indiana this entire season, literally couldn't miss. I think if they play that game 10 times, Indiana probably wins 9 out of 10 solely because Syracuse literally hasn't made shots like that the rest of the year. And if Indiana puts up 110 on you, that there's no way they give up over 100 again. But they lose to North Carolina last night. North Carolina, who was on the bubble, is now solidly in off of 2 quad 3 wins. How? I don't understand that. Indiana actually dropped a spot after 2 wins last week.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they were quad 3 or quad 2. Let me check on that. But I mean, they weren't huge wins, but they were wins. And they somehow drop a spot. And I don't really understand how that's possible. I mean, they had a quad 3 win and a quad 2 win. Drop a spot. And then San Francisco, who is also on the bubble, they move from last 4 in to the last 4 buys, coming off of a quad 3 win against San Diego and a loss. So Indiana goes 2-0. San Francisco goes 1-1. San Francisco moves up. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's all guesswork at this point, and that's what makes it frustrating. We were kind of talking before. There is this infatuation with putting in the mid majors to a certain degree, which okay, it's fine. I get it. San Diego State wins last night. Huge win for them. Matt Bradley, by the way. Matt Bradley is he's unreal. My goodness. I tweeted last night, Indiana at one point, I think we probably even talked about it last summer.
Did. Yeah.
There was some interest there, and he would have been nice to have. That would have been
his leash would not have been as long though. Like that's kind of yin yang of it. If he was on Indiana, like his leash would not be as long, and now he gets to play at San Diego State, be the number 1 guy, and just kill it. just absolutely kill it. So
He'd probably start for Indiana, don't you think?
maybe, yeah. I no, yes, he definitely would. At this point, it's like hindsight. Yes, he definitely would start for Indiana. But I mean, it's interesting to think about. He would definitely start over Miller Kopp right now. But you know, it gets dicey because he probably wouldn't have the season he's having right now at Indiana.
Probably not. Yeah, just being the number one guy is obviously enticing.
Yeah.
But we talked about it, like even Memphis to a certain degree is who has been playing really well, and you don't even like Memphis.
No, I hate Memphis. Yeah.
They've all of a sudden solidified their resume to a certain degree. And I don't even know. I'm going to look now because I haven't looked in depth at who they've played since they've kind of went on this run.
They beat Houston. Quit. They beat Houston. They lost to SMU. But I think they may have split with SMU.
In this stretch since January, 23rd. This is kind of the stretch run that they've been on, coming off a loss against SMU at home. They have one quad one win against Houston.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating, and they've totally moved up from where they've been. Like it's so hard to tell what's going to happen. And as an Indiana fan, I can complain all I want, but it's kind of like they've done this to themselves. So,
yeah, it's hard because Indiana gets in, I'm not trying to come at you. They're in solidly right now if they don't take the bad losses. Like if they just take, if they don't lose at Penn State, if they don't lose at Northwestern, they're in. They're
absolutely
solidified teams in. And so it gets hard when you have you can say you're in a good conference because you are. But you have to beat at least the bottom of the barrel teams. And you do have some good wins against the top of the conference. You have a win against Ohio State. You have a win against Purdue. But that Northwestern game is going to hurt. That in that Penn State game is most definitely going to hurt your chances.
And how much is the committee? Because someone was tweeting, I think it might have been a Assembly call, but Indiana's 8-2 in the Big Ten with a fully healthy roster.
Mm-hmm.
They really haven't had it all year because of guys being in and out. The two losses are Illinois, which they weren't going to win that game. My God, that Illinois in the second half was going off, and the Michigan game, which is another just nothing was going to change that game. My God, they did not play well, and Michigan could miss from three in the second half. Like, I don't know how much the committee factors into that. And again, the Northwestern game, we can debate it all we want. Is the committee going to punish them for that? I don't know. Woodson tried to do an honorable thing. We don't know what the details are, other than that it was a curfew thing. If it was just a curfew thing, that's a little frustrating.
I've heard a lot of different things.
Like we've all heard the different things, but if it was just curfew, which I hopefully doubt, suspending him for a game is a lot. Unless there's
for curfew. It wasn't just curfew.
It couldn't have been that, but that's all we know. And that's kind of frustrating for IU fans right now because they win that Northwestern game, which they would have, by the way, if they had their full team. They only lost by, I think, 3 or 5 or something and had 5 people playing. But, it's come to the point now where the Big Ten is basically going to cannibalize themselves, which usually happens when it comes down to it. Indiana and Rutgers are basically playing for a spot tomorrow.
That's a play-in game. Yeah,
it's basically a play-in before the play-in. Michigan, who is still in the last 4 byes, but they're really close to the last 4 in now, has a brutal schedule left. I think they play. I don't know. I think they might play tonight, but I'm not 100% certain on that. but I know they have to play. Here, let me pull it up real quick. They play Michigan State tonight, then Iowa, then Ohio State. And they played Illinois on Sunday. So the Big Ten is completely, if they lose these next three, there's no way they get in at 15-15. So it started to cannibalize themselves, and Michigan was one of the better looking teams in the Big Ten. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. I think was the Big East is second in tournament teams.
Yes, because SEC has 6.
I think the Big East had 7. I'm not
I think the SEC is third. Yes.
Yes, so Big East. The most likely scenario, in my opinion, is the Big Ten's only going to end up with 7, because I think Michigan is going to lose probably 2 of the next 3 games that they play. And maybe
I don't
see
Michigan getting in. I just can't see
it.
But
at 16-13.
Yeah.
They have to go on a run in the Big Ten tournament. And I don't know. They're probably going to play Indiana, to be honest. So maybe that's beneficial for them. But and whoever wins the Indiana Rutgers game, I think that team gets in and the other one doesn't.
Yeah.
So they're going to end up with 7 teams. So I don't know who is going to probably get those. It's not going to be a Power 5 conference, to be honest. Loyola and BYU and SMU, those are the next teams up. So
look, Oregon still has a chance to play in. Like, believe it or not, like they have a chance to play in. They're one of those teams that was scary, whatever, ranked at the beginning of the year. And if they beat USC, I think they're in. They just didn't pull it off. And it happens.
Yeah.
But it's
sucks
interesting.
For them. Not to interrupt. They do have a quad 1 game left, Washington State, that's about as low of a quad 1 win as you can get, but it is quad 1.
Yeah.
So they do have a quad 1 opportunity. Man, I didn't realize they only lost by a point.
Yeah.
That hurts because they're probably going to win the next 2. So
they have as good a chance as anybody to win the Pac-12 tournament. That is a bid stealing league right there.
That tournament's crazy.
Yeah,
it was crazy last year.
Bid stealing league because Oregon State stole a bid at the end of that.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's a team that really saved their ass this weekend that we need to talk about. That if they lost this game, probably should be on the bubble. And I've been all over this team from the beginning of the year. Michigan State. If they lost against Purdue, I don't know how. Do you think they are solidly off the bubble with the loss against Purdue?
100%.
Okay. Look, they would have 10 losses. They'd be sitting at 10 losses, and that would be losing, I think, 7 of 8 or something like that. They've been on a cold streak as of late. They were before that game, they were playing their way out of the tournament. I don't think they're that good. I don't think they'll make much noise in March at all. But obviously that win helps. They're in. Congrats to the Spartans.
Yeah, I think they do. They don't have a great schedule left either. They got to play Michigan, obviously, and then at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose to Purdue and then lose the next 2, then maybe we're talking about the bubble.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they will win against Michigan or Ohio State. I just don't. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be interesting, but they have some really good wins. And you talk about a team like Alabama, they have 10 losses, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true.
They might even be at 11 losses. No, they're at 10, 19-10. They have 8 quad 1 wins though. It's become apparent how important these quad 1 type wins are. And they're probably going to pick up another one if they can beat LSU, which is crazy to say. Alabama will have played 16 quad 1 games.
Yeah.
That's got to be tied for most.
I think they have the
country.
toughest schedule in America, if I believe.
That is a ton. I mean, Villanova, people talk about their tough schedule. They've only played 12.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
that 10 losses, it starts to make sense once you kind of peel back the curtain a little bit. Obviously, some of those
Yes.
losses came against terrible teams, but there's a lot of fatigue that goes into that when you're playing, Gonzaga, you're playing Houston in the non-conference. And obviously, when they scheduled the Memphis game, they were thinking that would be a top 10 opponent as well. And and they lose to the worst of the worst, which is so interesting. And I think there's always that team that the bracketologists always get wrong. I think there's going to be a couple this year just because it's so confusing. I think Alabama, there's a chance that they're like an 8 seed or something like that, like something seriously low just because of loss total. There's a chance like Providence drops down to I think they were a 4 seed in that first 16 that got released, even though they're the number 10 team in the country. I can see them dropping all the way down to that. There's a lot of teams like that, LSU, obviously. And it'll be interesting to see once we get down to it. But yeah, kind of moving off the bubble. But last thing, is there anything you want to add to kind of finish off the bubble talk?
No, I was just kind of looking at the bracket really quick. Kentucky, I was kind of looking at where they're at. Their 7-10 matchup is Iowa State, North Carolina, which
they can't. Is that
good.
even allowed?
Apparently, that's on Lenard. I don't know.
I didn't think you'd have the ability to play North Carolina in the second round.
I thought it was only if you play teams twice.
Okay. Maybe if you play them
them
once, you can't play them in the first round or something.
Maybe it's something. Yeah, I don't know what all the rules are on that. There's 3, those Wisconsin, and there's 6 is USC. I think Wisconsin's an interesting one. I know Kentucky fans don't really particularly like Wisconsin.
I know. Yep.
For reasons, but that would be another frustrating type of game. I feel like against a Wisconsin team, they feel like they should be able to handle. Their 1 seed is Baylor, which I think is very favorable to them.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the worst.
So far, what you've listed is the easiest bracket I've ever heard in my life. Is there somebody I'm missing?
Their 5 is Texas, and if you look at the other 5s across the board, it's Arkansas, Alabama, and Houston. So I mean, probably get the easiest 5 in there as well. The 4s are UCLA, UConn, Providence, and Illinois. So they probably have the easiest 4 as well. So yeah,
I'd take this bracket. Give me this one.
They're in a really good spot. Indiana, on the other hand, is in an okay spot, I think, matchup wise. Honestly, it's not too terrible. They're playing games against Memphis.
Yeah, they have
which is interesting. But then they get to play St. Mary's, who, if you look at the other 6 seeds, USC, Ohio State, and LSU. So give me St. Mary's any day. I don't care that they just beat Gonzaga. I don't think they're that good. Their 3 is Tennessee, which out of the 3 seeds, I'll play Tennessee over any of them. I think that's kind of that might be the ugliest tournament game. Like, we're talking some Abilene Christian, like Texas last year.
Oh my God, kill me! That would be terrible.
That would be it's going to be one of the like top defense in the Big Ten. I think Tennessee has one of the top defenses in the SEC.
Yeah, them and LSU.
Like, they're really going to just muck it up, and that would be an ugly game. And then Indiana would have to go through like
Tennessee
Iowa.
Plays bad in the tournament always, no matter what. Tennessee is terrible in the tournament.
So, and I think Iowa's not a terrible matchup. Duke would be kind of an interesting one, but they kind of are a bigger front court team as well. I don't know. It's not a terrible region. I hope Indiana doesn't end up in the play-in though, but we will have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's serious. Like, just win the games in front of you, and you can afford to drop Purdue because that game is realistically it's unattainable. Playing at Mackey.
Think about that. I mean,
if they win at Mackey, like, okay.
Not only is Purdue probably going to be playing for a share of the Big Ten, they're also going to have a revenge game
Yeah.
I just hope they don't lose by 30.
The cards are stacked against you in that game. But it's a rivalry, right? Weird things happen in rivalries. So who knows?
Not that weird.
Not that weird.
Not that weird. No.
Yeah.
I'm going to hammer Purdue on that day just to kind of hedge it.
That's fair. That's fair. Let's kind of get into some previews here to preview this wonderful Tuesday night of basketball that is coming up. We're going to start out in the Big East. There's a game tonight in the Big East. There's a big game. Providence heads to Villanova. I'm going to play a game with you. Hopefully you don't already know. Don't look at it. Guess what the spread for this game is.
Nova -5.
Higher.
Really? Like -7?
Villanova -9.5.
Wow.
For the number 11 team versus the number 9 team. That's absurd. I've never seen anything like that. But look, Vegas knows. Obviously, they don't go off the AP polls. Neither do us. But like, that's a huge spread for two. At the end of the day, I'm putting in air quotes for those listening on podcasts. Contenders. I think Nova wins. Nova's a weird team too. 21-7. They have a lot of losses. They're playing a Providence team 24-3. The matchup predictor on ESPN is 88.4% Villanova, 11.6% Providence. I don't think there's any way that Villanova covers that.
No, that's especially with Providence. I mean, they're always in the games that they play. So that's
right.
That's shocking to me. But it also like man in the suit almost just like I want to take Providence immediately. So it's like, no, I'm taking Villanova.
Right.
But
like that spread seems too much, but I think Vegas is it's just begging you to take Providence.
Yeah.
We're definitely overthinking it. I think Providence covers because I don't remember the last time they've played a close game or a blowout game. It's always close. They just went to triple overtime with Xavier. Look, they're one of the few winners from the teams at the top of the rankings because they didn't lose this week. So, I mean, who knows?
I don't know. The Big East is interesting. I saw it was actually our pal Freddie on Twitter. It's another interesting topic on the Big East being this really good conference again. And somebody tweeted out the records of some teams that had like left the Big East.
The old school Big East, yeah.
And it was like their records in other conferences, like the Big Ten. And I want to see if I can find it. But it was basically pointing out, okay, here we go. Like Boston College, Louisville, Pitt, Rutgers, Syracuse, but like all these teams that left the Big East at one point, they're really bad. These records are bad. All of them are under 500 except Rutgers at 16-12. And I don't know, it just makes you wonder how these teams would do. And I think the Big East has been awesome this year. It's kind of been a revelation for college basketball as far as kind of picking up the slack for the ACC. There's that other conference that's kind of at the top with the Big Ten and the SEC. But it's hard to be a believer in any of these teams other than Villanova for me.
I've been out on Villanova. There's one team I believe in. There's one team I believe in the Big East. The UConn Huskies. It's the UConn Huskies.
Because there's Marquette. Are you out on them?
Yeah, they just lost too many games.
They have lost a lot recently.
They've lost a lot recently. That's why I've stopped talking about them. UConn is the only team that plays like a look, Villanova plays like a modern offense, but they kind of still have those old school fundamentals, right? UConn's the only team that relies on this modern, fast-paced offense, high-flying, whatever. It's like obviously they're the newcomers to the league, but they look like they don't fit in. And I think they're a new mold in the Big East, and I like them a lot. I think they can. I think they have a better chance of any to make a run in the tournament by far. Like I don't think it's close. Because I mean, shout out Xavier. They've been struggling recently. Jack Nungy, our boy, one of the best players in the Big East, by the way. But yeah, I mean, I think UConn's really the only team that I can see making a true run in the tournament. But that's kind of my take on it. Tonight, we don't have to stay on this for too long. Ole Miss travels to Kentucky, final home game for the Wildcats. Kentucky's favored by 17 points.
They're not covering that.
I don't really see them playing tie or severe. I don't know why you would in this game. Just get them ready. You don't need them for this game. Player seniors, whatever. We actually have some seniors this year, which is awesome. And just beat them. I don't think Kentucky covers 17 and a half or 17. But I've seen crazier things. I've seen them blow teams out by more than that. So I'll take it. Why not? Why not take the money?
At this point, what is Kentucky necessarily playing for?
I mean, nothing in this game, but they travel to Florida, and that will help them out. Yeah.
I think we've talked about the 1 seed. I don't think it matters.
It doesn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't. But there is, when you look at the stats, I think the last 10 winners of the tournament, I think I could be way off, but I think 7, maybe 8 of them have been 1 seeds. I saw the stat a long time ago, and I'm working off the top of my head. So forgive me if I'm wrong, but obviously that UConn team was one of the only ones. Like, it doesn't matter at all, but it's just the optics of it that make it seem like a more successful season. But who cares? Yeah. Who cares?
I mean, if you go through the bracket, the 8-9s, I'd honestly say are scarier than the 7-10s in almost every single region.
Yeah.
Which that's just preference to me. Like Murray State's a 9. Like I would not want to get matched up with Murray State.
They're going to be like Wichita State. Remember when Wichita State was like a 10 seed and Kentucky had to play them in the second round? And I was at that game. I was like, what in the hell are they doing as a 10 seed? Because Landry Shamet was like hitting every shot he took and whatever. Oh my gosh, that scared me. But yeah, they had an insane season and they were a 10 seed. Do you remember who they beat in that first round? Just quick trivia.
Are you trying to mess with me here?
No, like kind of, yeah. It's your boy, Archie Miller. Wichita State beat Dayton in that first round. Yeah.
What year would that have been?
That was 2017. That was the De'Aaron Fox year.
So Archie got hired that year after.
The following year, yeah. After that
got announced quickly because Archie was out of the tournament.
Yeah. No, yeah. I was on my way to North Carolina because the Cats were playing UNC, and I heard the news. So there you go.
Ooh, just got some news. But we'll talk about it. We can talk about it once we get to IU. Are there any more games you want to preview?
Kansas travels to TCU. Kansas -6. Give me TCU +6. I got 2 more games after this. We can rapid fire.
Ooh, that's a tough one. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, TCU's off the bubble. I no longer care about them. They are apparently solidly in after that Texas Tech win. So I don't really care about their games, but I think Kansas recovers from their Baylor loss. I didn't watch a lot. That was another late one, Saturday night. And I don't know. Baylor is this weird team that people are kind of believing in. I mean, their quad 1 record is honestly really freaking good.
Yeah.
But it seems like fool's gold. But they No, they did not sweep Kansas. They lost. They got destroyed the first time. So there you go. That's it.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to beat a team twice, especially after you beat them by 30 the first time. So
Like I'll tell you what, TCU has a guard named Mike Miles. He's a COVID sophomore.
Yeah.
One of the best guards in the country. Like, I'm serious. Like, he's that talented. Kansas doesn't have an answer for him. I'm giving you some inside betting information. They don't have an answer. They don't have somebody that can guard him at TCU. We know how home court works on that weird court too. Weird court. That I would almost make the bet off of the weird court. So I think Kansas still finds a way to pull it off because they always do. But give me TCU spread.
We're in a really weird spot with this game, by the way, because I didn't even realize this. They play TCU play Tuesday. Mm-hmm. They play again on Thursday.
Oh, weird. I don't like that.
It's going to be a split.
I need your ESPN Plus sign in because apparently it's on ESPN Plus. Moving on. Purdue at Wisconsin. I kind of think Wisconsin wins like in a massive way.
Really? I hope Wisconsin wins. I really do.
I kind of think that Wisconsin wins by like 10 plus.
Wow.
Don't tell anybody that, but that's kind of where my head's at.
I'm all on the Wisconsin train at this point. Need them to get the 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament. That is very, very important.
So Purdue's not playing for anything?
It's gonna be interesting. They're coming off a loss though. Like, I don't know.
I don't like Wisconsin. I
do, but the issue is
at Wisconsin at the Kohl Center.
Yeah, you could say the same thing about the first matchup, Wisconsin at Mackey. Like, didn't expect them to win that one. I don't know. Depends on how Purdue's bigs play. I mean, Zach Edey had 25 against Michigan State or something like that, and they still lost. But Wisconsin's bigs are very lackluster compared to their guards.
Sure.
It's going to come down to who plays better, Johnny Davis or Jaden Ivey, though. I mean, that's really going to come down to it.
Just Purdue's been so out of sorts and weird. I don't.
Oh, they're not maybe the team everybody thought they were.
Yeah, like it happens. North Texas type. I'm kind of in the train on hating on Purdue because I watch them play and they're so gross. Like they're just so gross and they should be so much better than they are. And
they don't play defense. Like that doesn't even.
They seriously don't play defense. They seriously don't play defense. Like Zach Edey is a terrible rim protector. Believe it or not. How can you be 7'4" and not be a good rim protector? Kind of off my high horse. And but yeah, give me Wisconsin big. Arizona goes to USC. No chance in hell that Arizona loses this game. They're not going to lose 2 road games in a row. USC fraudulent. Sorry, USC fans. You're not. It's just like it's not going to happen. Give me Arizona in a big way tonight.
Totally agree. That cements them as a 1 seed, right?
They're probably already cemented as a 1 seed. I don't know how they didn't drop at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the rankings.
Everybody dropped except Gonzaga and Arizona, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, it's almost
theirs was a quad. Theirs was a quad 2 loss.
It's almost like the media has picked out their 2 sweethearts for the year. No,
like at least everybody else's was a quad 1. If I'm not mistaken.
I'm sure Colorado.
Like no, I'm saying that was the only one that wasn't a quad 1. Like Colorado was quad 2 or 3.
Really?
St. Mary's quad 1.
Colorado?
Yes, that was a quad 2 loss.
Damn, that's crazy.
I feel like every other one was a quad 1.
No, definitely every other one. Because like most of them are ranked. So like it seems the optics were bad, but most of them are ranked. So, okay. Indiana Rutgers. This is the last time we're going to record before this game. This is a make or break for Indiana. What's your prediction?
I mean, I'm not going to pick against Indiana. The one thing that I can kind of be confident in is Rutgers is a team that is different on the road than they are at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to talk about a home and road split, it's pretty drastic for them. They're 3-9 on the road,
Yeah.
and 13-3 at home. And I think having Rob back is very important as far as defending their guards, and having a guy that can kind of spell Xavier Johnson if he gets into another rough patch, which he's been playing really well lately. So hopefully we don't even have to deal with that. But just some news off of that game, because it's senior night for them, and IU has a lot of seniors. If you look at the classifications of it, can you guess who? There's only 2 speaking. I'm pretty sure 6 were eligible to speak. I think they had 6 seniors technically. There's only 2 speaking. Can you guess who they are?
Race?
Yep.
And oh God. I don't want to be wrong because I'm gonna sound like an idiot. It's not Miller Kopp, is it? Parker?
No, it's Parker. I'm surprised it's not Rob. That's surprising to me.
That's really weird.
If you look into it, that basically means that he is coming back, I guess. Like, you give your, like, if there's a chance you leave.
No, yeah.
Then you're probably gonna, like, I think the whole Miller Kopp thing, it was a 2-year plan when he came here, so I think he obviously is probably going to stay unless he gets kicked off the team for some reason, but that's not going to happen. Xavier Johnson, obviously, these guys were a 2-year plan. Parker Stewart, I guess, hindsight 2020, his 2-year plan was started last year.
Yeah.
So Race is the big one. Like, they need him back, man. We talked about it on Hoosier Morning After, and a front court of Race and Geronimo next year, which I said backcourt. It was early in the morning. Called him a backcourt, which was
you're lucky I didn't catch that because I listened to it back on the way.
See, it just kind of, I didn't even notice it, and I was just like, oh man, I said that. It just let it pass. But those two in the front court, you want to talk about offensive rebounds? I mean, they're going to terrorize people.
Yeah.
But if they don't get Race back, they're in trouble. And I don't know what's going to happen either, because they're 3 scholarships over.
Yeah.
I mean, even if both of these guys do leave, they're still over by 1, and that's probably going to mean Trace leaves. So then they would be fine, but it's going to be interesting.
I have a question regarding this Rutgers game.
Yeah.
We've talked about Trace before. We talked about how he
tries away,
disappears, kind of low energy sometimes. Not calling him lazy, but kind of calling him lazy sometimes. Cliff, I don't know how to say, because when he was being recruited, people were calling him Amarui. Now he's Amori, whatever. Cliff Amori hustles his ass off. Like, that is what he is known for. He flies around the court. Are you at all worried about that being a problem for Trace? Like, he's obviously 10 times better than Cliff, but if he shies away, like, that could be bad. Like, Rutgers, all in all, hustles their ass off. That whole team is full of tryhards. Yeah. Are you at all worried about that? You can say no. Yeah. It was just a take I just brewed up.
I'm worried anytime that a team has hustling bigs that are, I mean, last year was Miles Johnson. Mm-hmm. And he is a problem for them. Like, it was in the Big Ten tournament, like, they could stop him on defense, and offensively couldn't do anything against him because he was so much bigger. Like, he's 7 foot and had probably 20 pounds on Trace. I think, obviously, I mean, Cliff is 6'11", 240, which is, he's a big dude. I think that, yeah, I'm worried. Okay, thanks. You talked me into that. I'm a little worried now.
that could
Um,
that could just be whatever, but
these last two games, they've kind of won without Trace, which is kind of comforting as an IU fan because they haven't really needed him to play well to win these two games. I'm more worried about defending Ron Harper and Geo Baker because, again, I hate Geo Baker. Can't stand
you
it.
You need Rob for Geo.
Yes,
100%.
I'm glad he's back. I don't think Trey's going to be back, which is unfortunate, but the fact that Rob is going to be there, that is comforting me. I think it's going to be close.
So Copp's guarding Ron Harper Jr.?
No, that'll be Race.
Race, you think? Okay.
Which should be fine. Like I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, Harper plays a 4, doesn't he? He plays that small ball 4.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know who guards Geo Baker. I don't know. I don't know which again.
Does he start yet? Because there's been years like he hasn't started.
He started the last game.
He's been there. Okay.
And Mulcahy's 6'6", but he's kind of a point guard for them.
Yeah.
And then you've got McConnell who's 6'7". So I would guess from a speed perspective, it just would make sense to put Xavier Johnson on Geo Baker, but I don't know. The defensive matchups have been interesting, to say it nicely, but I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be, hopefully the atmosphere is good. We're going to need the Hall of Calls to really step their game up. It hasn't really happened very much this year, but we're going to need some Purdue level foul calls, free throws going in Indiana's favor to win this one.
We'll see. You're just lucky it's not the rack.
Oh, the season's over. We would have stopped talking about Indiana 2 weeks ago.
I mean, Rutgers is – I was listening to Part of My Take. They did a college basketball segment, and they said, being serious, that Rutgers at the rack against a ranked team is legitimately the best team in college basketball.
Oh, yeah.
It was a funny thing to hear. But, Connor, thanks for joining me. We'll be doing the spaces after this one, no?
Yes. The time is going to be interesting. I kind of forgot about the senior night thing. I don't know if I'm going to stay for the whole speech thing, or I will kind of see what time, because obviously I don't want to start the spaces like at 10:30 or 11. So
shout out when we started the Kentucky one at midnight.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't have class the next day, so it's not that big of a deal. But I think hopefully we get Martha on. Shout out to him. He's probably going to be at the game, so there might be an opportunity there. You could potentially go say hi to him, but he's going to be driving back, and he said he will join. But
well, that's unsafe.
Yeah, it's like being on a phone call.
I'm joking. But hopefully I made him. That'll be fun. Connor, thanks for joining me. We have a lot of basketball to get to. It's March. It's freaking March, baby. Look, we'll do these spaces. We can do them literally any night in the next couple of weeks. Like, we'll be doing them. I don't know how often you will want to, but I'm down to do them after every night of tournament games. Is that too much?
Oh, absolutely. No.
Okay, cool.
As long as well, depending on if Indiana's in or not, I might need a day or two to relax and not say something stupid publicly, but
that's fair. Well, hopefully they get in. It'll be the first year since, obviously this is a stupid thing to say. First year since 2016 that both Kentucky and Indiana are in. I'm saying that because it's been 2 years since Kentucky's been in a tournament, which is crazy to say. But I've been dying to get in a tournament finally, but one was a COVID, one was.
I'd like to be in the tournament once while I'm a student here, like at least once. Like,
yeah, that's weird.
That's not too much to ask.
That's weird. They got Indiana teams in these play-in games. Colts, against the Jags.
Let's not talk
I'm not.
about that.
Yeah, let's not talk about it. All right, that's it. Connor, thank you for joining me. Thank you guys for listening. Like, subscribe, 5 stars, do whatever you got to do to show us some love. It'll definitely help. Listen to us all March. We're the only college basketball podcast that you should be listening to. But yeah, thank you for joining me and love you guys.